in control.
The Nintendo 64 is one of my favorite consoles of all time. It was my first home console that I ever owned, and it is near and dear to my heart. Welcome to 5 Cheap Games. My name's Alex from TurboZone. Today we are going to look at 5 cheap games for the Nintendo 64. Maybe you just got into playing the N64 and you want some cheap game recommendations? Or maybe you've had a 64 for a long time and you're just looking for some more games to play. Well, guess what? I've got you covered. Today we're going to talk about 5 cheap games. What do I consider a cheap game? A cheap game for this episode will be anything I can buy for under $30. I am joined by 2 guests today. They will have an entry each, so you'll get 3 from me and then 1 from both of them. And the guests are Majora T, my good friend Teddy Kong, and Mr. Tylord Stevenson. They are going to present theirs at the end of the episode. I'll do my 3 first. So sit back, relax, enjoy the episode. Let me know in the comments below what cheap N64 games you enjoy. Just so you know, I'm not going to be including anything published by Nintendo or second-party games by Rareware. For the most part, you already know about those games if you are into the N64. As much as I fucking love Rareware and they make up the majority of my childhood, I'm avoiding those games. And these are some games that maybe you've seen, maybe you've heard of, but you just haven't thought about picking up before. First up here, we have Bomberman Hero. Bomberman's a franchise that I've always been interested in, and I've dabbled in quite a few games. I have some of the Super Nintendo games, I have some of the newer entries, I even have some of the other N64 titles. But Bomberman Hero was my first time playing the franchise, and it kind of gave me the wrong impression on what Bomberman was, because Bomberman Hero is sort of a black sheep. Even when it comes to the other 2 Bomberman games on N64, Bomberman Hero is more of a hallway platformer. Think something like Crash Bandicoot, or maybe some of the new Mario 3D World or Land style games. It's similar to that. It's like almost 2.5D in nature, the way that you're progressing through the levels. It keeps a lot of elements of classic Bomberman, like the power-ups whenever you use bombs to blow things up, or the fact that your bombs can kill you. That's still very much a part of this game. And I really like this game. It's a very fun platformer. It's got some really groovy music. A lot of drum and bass in the soundtrack. Sadly, when I recorded the footage for my games, the audio didn't record for some reason. But I will put some of the music in behind this part of the video. But yeah, it's got a really cool soundtrack. I would just honestly, even if you're not interested in playing the game, I would recommend just looking up and listening to the soundtrack. It's very, very bizarre, but very cool. It's like one of the coolest soundtracks, I think, on the console, in my opinion. And the game is very good. It has a lot of stages. It's a pretty meaty game, to be honest. You go, planet to planet. I don't know. The story is about some princess that needs Bomberman's help because who cares? It's fucking Bomberman. Do you care about the plot in Bomberman? I don't even think they care because they've changed the canon for Bomberman like 8 times. So it doesn't really matter. All that matters is that Bomberman's cute, you're having fun, and this is a kick-ass platformer for the N64 that you should not sleep on. this one's very near and dear to my heart. This is Miss Pac-Man Maze Madness. Just like the last one, the soundtrack for this game is awesome, and I'll be playing it behind this part, but I don't have audio for this either. But Miss Pac-Man Maze Madness is near and dear to my heart because it's a game that I actually played a lot growing up with my mom. My mom's a big Pac-Man fan, and so am I. And this was a game that we both enjoyed a lot. I used to actually rent this game for the N64 a lot. Remember game rentals? That was a time. And yeah, I used to play this game with her on the times we'd rent it, and we'd see how far we could get. Miss Pac-Man Maze Madness is interesting because it takes the maze formula of the old Pac-Man games and mixes it in with like an adventure game. So you're gonna be eating dots and eating ghosts and getting power-ups and that's same stuff you do in classic Pac-Man. But you're also going to be solving block puzzles and jumping, like using launcher pads to jump over obstacles, and there's just a lot of like hitting switches and stuff. There's a lot of cool elements to this game that make it much more than just a maze game, and makes it feel like a full adventure. But it still has a lot of the elements of classic Pac-Man still in there. And I'm kind of sad that like they don't still do this with the Pac-Man franchise in any sort of way. The most we get now is we had a remaster of Pac-Man World, but other than that, it's like we get like some classic style games every once in a while that are in the style of like old school Pac-Man. It's sad that they don't try to like integrate that with a different style of gameplay like this. Because Maze Madness is fantastic. This game will never see the light of day again because the rights to Miss Pac-Man are in fucking limbo. I think they're with Games right now, and so if they did re-release this, they would have to use the new Pac-Mom character, which that whole I need to do a video on that one day because that whole story baffles me how Namco is lost the rights to their own character. It's crazy. But this game's awesome. It is really good on here. It's also good on the PS1 and Dreamcast, so if you want to play those versions, you can also go for that. But it's great on the N64, and you should pick it up if you like classic Pac-Man. Lastly, okay, this is Glover. This is Glover. And yes, I'm being serious with this. I know I like to joke about Glover a lot. Cuz I don't know, it's funny, like they had mascot platformers for like everything back in the day, so it is funny to joke about the glove one. But Glover is like actually kind of a really competent game. It's a game where you play as a glove named Glover. You were once part of a pair that belonged to a wizard until a spell went wrong, and the other glove turned into the villain of the game, Cross Stitch, and is taking over the castle. And you need to get the crystals back. It's platformer fare. You're just trying to get the collectibles, and it is a 3D collectathon style game. What makes it interesting, though, is that whenever the crystals were like spread across the world, they were turned into like bouncy balls. So that's sort of like the objective of the game, is to roll the ball through the levels with you. So you're not just platforming as Glover; you have to do some like ball physics type stuff with the game, which at first I think can be a little annoying with the controls, but once you get the controls down, I think it is a lot of fun to try to solve some of the puzzles and do some of the platforming. But I will say, and I have played this game since I was a kid, this is a game that I had as a kid, I will say that some of the later levels in this game become brutally relentless. It's some of the stuff that you're required to do in some of the later stages is very hard. So there can be some frustration in the later part of the game. But I still think Glover's a lot of fun. This game got a re-release recently on the Evercade, and I've played it some there recently. And the N64 version is the version you want to play if you're looking to play Glover. Don't play the PS1 version. It's a downgraded version. It's a pretty competent platformer. I love 3D platformers of this era, and Glover is pretty good. So if you've never played it and you like 3D platformers, give it a go.
What's up, all you Turbo Zoners? It's me, Majority, or Turbo T today, Turbo Teddy, because I'm joining Alex of Turbo to talk about 5 cheap Nintendo 64 games. I had not so many to pick from. I used to have more N64 games. Now I have a decent collection, a good 30 or so. A lot of them are first party and or rareware, and I felt like that was too expected. It's too normie, and I don't want to give a normie take. I want to give you a cheap game that is third party, because I feel like that's really where the meat and potatoes of the traditional cheap game experience comes from. And there's only one of the ones I have that I really like that I've finished. That's not true. I have Sin and Punishment over there, but I don't think that's cheap enough. So I'll go with a cheaper one. And I think it's cheap because a lot of people sleep on it. They write it off as a bad game. And I think that they need to get better at gaming because this game is not that bad. It's Castlevania 64. It's a really good game, all things considered. And I've seen it misrepresented in some ways. I really like this game's atmosphere past the first level. Okay, there's no music on the first level. And I've seen people say the game has no music. Well, you're wrong. You did not make it past the first level. Go look up the game's soundtrack. I've seen people say the platforming is impossible. Not true. It operates very much like a Lara Croft-y kind of Tomb Raider experience. I've seen people say the camera controls are inoperable. Just because it does not function the way that you're used to with modern gaming does not make it inoperable. It does have an action and a classic view. One like follows the character, and the other one is kind of like overhead, not like directly overhead, but like over the shoulder behind the character. And there are some ways to finagle it even then. So I've manipulated the cameras to make it operable, and I think there's a lot of memorable moments in this game that make it a cheap game worth playing through. Right now you get it online for like $25, and I think it's worth it for the challenge alone to see if you can weather the storm that so many people have said is unweatherable. It's funny because people say that those old ones are really hard, and they are. They absolutely are. People say the same thing about this one, but for bad reasons, that like it's the game's fault, it's working against you. I think you just need to understand the game's physics and mechanics, and once you do, there's a great game to be enjoyed here. Back to you, Turbo. Take this with you.
Hi, Tylord here, and welcome to my filthy stained bed, where I'm going to share a cheap game for my buddy Alex from TurboZone. Do you like Nintendo 64? Do you like 90s television series? Do you like sexy Amazon women? Here we go. Xena, the Talisman of Fate for Nintendo 64. Published by Titus. I think they published many games back there. I don't know if they're still around. It's developed by a company called Sapphire, which I think is defunct. But they did quite a few games, console games back in the 90s for various consoles. A fighting game here. I know there was a beat-em-up style adventure game for PlayStation. This one's a fighting game. One-on-one fighting. Has a 3D game, so a button is jump. The R button is jump. And it has left punch, left kick. And right kick, right punch. And I think there's a block button. Oh no, or maybe it's just back is black. It's been a while since I played it. Fun game though, fun one-on-one fighting game. You think it might be awkward to press a button to jump, but it's a 3D arena. You're always locked onto your opponent though, so you can play it like most other fighting games. You can lock on and spam projectiles if you want. That's how I beat it with many characters. It has many characters from the television show, which I'm not too familiar with. I haven't watched this show in years. It's got Xena herself and her cute little blonde buddy, Gabrielle. A lot of characters from the show. It has Ted Raimi there, the Jokester, or Joxer's character. This guy sucks, but I beat the game with him. He's like the crappiest character. He's like a joke. Callisto. Bruce Campbell, you can be in it. This guy Ares. I think that actor died, unfortunately. And all these other cuties. Epiphany, Lao Ma. I don't know if I'm pronouncing their names right. Velasca and Caesar. That's the guy that plays Bones in Star Trek, that actor. He plays Judge Dredd. And then this guy, Despair, the boss. Kind of tough, but like I said, if you get the timing right, you can spam fireballs, all kinds of moves. I enjoyed it enough to beat it with all the characters. And the point of this video is it's very cheap. I think you get it for like $5 to $10. I recommend it if you like N64 fighting games. It kind of looks okay. It looks okay in an N64 type of way. Like in some ways it looks better than a PlayStation game. In some ways it looks worse, like the textures and all that. But I think it's a fun, nice looking little game. If you enjoy the show, I think you'd like it. And that's about it.
There we go. That was 5 cheap games for the Nintendo 64. Thank you to Teddy Kong of Majority and my good friend Tylord. They both had great recommendations. Well, at least Tylord did. I don't like Castlevania 64, but you know what? Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching. You at home, or on the bus, or on a train, or at the doctor's office, or maybe you're in court right now, which I would recommend getting off your phone if you really want to keep your children and don't lose them to your ex-wife. You might want to stop watching this video and pay attention to what's happening. Thank you for joining me today. Let me know what other consoles you want to see 5 Cheap Games episodes for. Check out some of the old 5 Cheap Games episodes. There is a playlist on the channel. I will catch you guys later. Enjoy playing some N64. The Nintendo 64 is very special, and I think you need to play more of it now.
That's a backpack!
Oh, alright. Kazooie? Oh.
Banjo and Kazooie have disconnected, now working individually and as a team to tackle their biggest adventure yet, Banjo-Tooie. Rated E for everyone. Just remember, bears still need a bird to fly.